Everyone's praising A24's new movie Sorry Baby, and it has layered symbolism I think is worth explaining, like how everything with the cat, the bug, and that ending with the baby tie into the deeper themes of memory, trauma, maturity, and gender. So let's dive in. At the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Agnes and her friend Liddy having a juvenile conversation about sex, and Liddy surprises her with a pregnancy reveal. The content of the jokes foreshadows the trauma that we'll learn about later, and the way the two talk suggests a sort of stunted growth. It sounds more like something you'd hear from high schoolers, not accomplished adults. As the film goes on, we're gonna see that Agnes's lack of processing her trauma has caused an arrested development. She's not maturing or growing and is anxious about the idea of motherhood, which is signaled by Liddy's pregnancy. Agnes and Liddy meet with their former classmates, and we see that people have different memories and feelings of their time in school. Agnes was deeply affected by an experience with their professor Decker, a man who her classmates still respect. The idea of what memories somebody carries with them and how they're affected by them is central to the movie. We see that years later, Agnes is still suffering from the weight of her experience, and that others who don't have that memory have a completely different perception of Decker. Sorry Baby is a movie about trauma, but it sees that trauma is only one form of memory. The movie's chapters are structured around other impactful memories for Agnes. The year with the baby, the year with the questions, etc. This replicates how periods of time are represented in our mind. Vast stretches are boiled down into the memories that stick with us. Impactful moments like the final one you had with a friend before everything changed, the chance encounter with a stranger that improved your life, and the time that a dark cloud finally lifted. In this way, the movie is incredibly subjective. It's Agnes's recollection of the key moments in her life and how she saw the people in her life at that time. The human mind is a mysterious thing, and memory is fallible. We might not always be right about the things we think are important, and we might not realize how much something is affecting us until it's too late. Sometimes we might also have the memory, but not all of the exact details. Sorry Baby explores this in the way that it depicts Agnes's assault. It happens completely off screen, leaving us to take Agnes's word. When Lydia asks her what happened, at first her response is to say she doesn't remember anything. And then she recalls everything in excruciating and disturbing detail. It speaks to how the human mind has trouble processing traumatic events, using dissociation as a defense mechanism. We can see clearly, even if she doesn't remember anything, she's very affected. And the idea that somebody could be affected by an event they have no memory of will be relevant later on, so let's remember that. By withholding details except for Agnes's testimony, it also challenges the viewer's perception of Decker, who up to this point has been portrayed as like not a bad guy. He's too interested in Agnes, but he's not scary. But the assault that Agnes describes is horrific, and it asks you, the viewer, can you rewrite your perception of Decker without having that experience yourself? Despite her trouble processing the event, and even if she succumbs to minor human error while recalling the details, we can see that she obviously knows what happened. And the rest of the movie explores the different ways that this memory affects Agnes. It doesn't just change her relationship with Decker, it poisons everything related. She no longer feels confident in her academic successes, unsure if any of them were legitimately earned. Besides Liddy, the one person she can confide in, her relationship with her classmates has been shattered, and she can't be honest with them anymore without ruining everybody's perception of the group. A promotion at work now means she has to work in the former office of her abuser. As a result of her trauma, Agnes gets stuck for years. While Liddy moves on to New York City and finds a wife, Agnes stays in the same small New England town, teaching at the same school. She's single and struggles with her attraction to men, which we see in her relationship with her neighbor Gavin. We see that she wants something with him, but she isn't sure what, and is really uncomfortable exploring the idea. And she leaves her thesis, physical evidence of her trauma, taped up in the window of her room. Agnes is trapped, ruminating on her trauma, unable to grow while everybody else has moved on a long time ago. What might have appeared in the beginning as simple immaturity is something else entirely. A particularly interesting thing to me is that the other characters in the film don't really seem to have their own traumas like Agnes. They aren't stuck like she is. I believe this is for a few reasons. One, the movie is a subjective recollection of Agnes's memories, so we'll only see what other people share with her and how it affects Agnes. Just as she holds her trauma close to her chest, others likely do as well. And we see this when Natasha admits that she had sex with Decker. It comes as a complete surprise to Agnes, who processes it as an imagined extension of her own trauma, not as a lived experience that Natasha would have had. And two, it plays into this idea that you have in real life where everybody else always seems to have their stuff together except for you. We all project the best version of ourselves, and going back to Natasha, I personally believe she harbors much darker feelings about the experience than what she tells Agnes. Her face betrays a complexity that the movie just doesn't go further into because it's not about Natasha's trauma. 3. It emphasizes how Agnes is stuck in place. Everyone processes things at different speeds, but Agnes is halted in her recovery process and needs to understand how she can heal and move on. It's simple to assume that other characters in this world have suffered too, but aren't stuck like she is. That doesn't mean they're better or stronger people, but what it does mean is that at a certain point, Agnes needs to figure out what moving on looks like for her. Sorry Baby is a movie that recognizes these tragic experiences are a fact of life we have to accept and we all need to process in our own way. Agnes's experiences with men have challenged her sense of femininity, and we see this in a couple of ways. First, she begins identifying as non-binary, using she/they pronouns, and she develops an anxiety around motherhood. If Agnes were normal, there's somebody who, by all outward appearances, would become a mother one day, but she doesn't feel entirely like a woman and isn't maturing properly. In this way, motherhood becomes a symbol of how trauma affects them. Even when they're able to reach a deeper connection with Gavin, it's his mention of wanting children one day that makes her uncomfortable again. It's something the world demands of her, but they aren't sure they're capable of or even want. The cat that they take in is representative of this internal struggle as she tries to explore growth, but in a muted way with a pet instead of a child.
I got a cat.
Whatever you need.
Another key turning point we see is when she's forced to kill a bug while living alone. This is a stereotypical act where a woman would go running to a man for help with, and the fact she can do it alone shows maturity and ownership over her gender, but the childish way she does it shows she still has a way to go. If you've been enjoying my analysis, you should consider hitting the subscribe button. I do more videos like this. One I did recently on the Phoenician scheme, you should go check out after this one. Anyways, back to the video. The ending of the film shows Agnes meeting Liddy's baby, a physical manifestation of her anxieties and trauma. While she's stuck in place, her friend has moved on and became the exact thing she fears she could never be. The direction plays into Agnes's perception of this situation. We finally meet Liddy's wife, Fran, and she comes off as cold. Fran and the baby seem like wedges between once what were inseparable friends. Not a single moment can go by without an interjection about the baby or making sure the baby is okay. It's this feeling of like, man, I just want to hang out with my friend. Why the heck does this baby have to exist? But that's an immature viewpoint. And as the scene goes on, Agnes sees that Fran is really just a caring mother. After all, what person wouldn't want their child to be safe? Does Agnes just expect these people to neglect their kid on her behalf? Agnes makes the decision to watch the baby so they can go on a date, signaling her growth in a number of ways. It's a selfless act that gives up a short time she had with her friend. It forces her to face down her worst anxieties around motherhood, and it shows that she's developed empathy for a situation where before she had none. We see the ideas of memory and maturity come full circle when Agnes is finally able to process her trauma by talking to the baby. Agnes is giving advice not just to the baby but to herself, someone struggling to become an adult, expressing hope that she can grow up and have a good life. hence the title, Sorry Baby. We see how she's able to grow through connection with other people and facing the world, not by stewing alone in sadness, and she asks the baby to confide in her one day the same way. Also, that thing I mentioned way back about a memory that affects us even if we don't remember it, think about how a baby perceives the world and learns. Agnes knows the baby won't remember her words, but she hopes that they'll have a positive impact anyway. It's the opposite of a traumatic memory that you can never shake. Sorry Baby is not just a movie about trauma. It's about how memories shape us, the way we carry them, and how we share them with others. It's a movie about growing up and not forgetting or avoiding the bad parts of life, but learning how to live with them. If you enjoyed this movie and my analysis, please hit the subscribe button, give this video a like. Is there anything I didn't mention here that you'd like to know more about? If you think I'm way off the mark or overthinking this one, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. This movie's about a tough subject matter, and I hope I did it justice. Any feedback would be appreciated. As always, I hope you have fun at the movies.